Hello, this is Debbie from cariadcards.co, and today I'm going to show you how I made this card. It started off literally just as a plain piece of white card, and all of this has been done using inks and brushes and then stamps and a bit of embossing. So to start with, I'm going to look at how we did the sort of snowy mountain scene. So we've got a plain piece of card. I'm going to use Pool Party ink, Island Indigo and Night of Navy. And I've got one of these ink duster brushes. I find they work quite well for creating this kind of just gentle effect. But you can use the sponges as well, as long as you're just very gentle with how you use them and take off a lot of the ink to start with. You'll get the same or a very similar effect. So first of all we need to make what we call a mask. Now this is the one that I actually used. You can see I've been inking over it. Literally it's just a piece of paper or card and you just tear the sort of shape that you want. So you just want to make some sort of mountains and valleys. You just want to make it look like you've got a snowy scene. You can make them as high or as low as you want. And you can even tear more bits off. Make sure you've got a decent amount at the bottom because when you're putting the ink on you want to be able to mask the card so that you don't get stray sections of ink where you don't want them. Now see, I think that's probably a little bit too sharp, so let's just take that down. You want to tear it though rather than cut it with scissors, because all these little notches just give it a slightly more natural look. So that's the one that I use, but I'll use this one here. And you can get the low tack tape, put it on the back and put it on, and that will hold it in place. I'm just going to hold it in place by hand today, but you do have to be careful it doesn't move. So I'm going to start off with just this bottom bit here. So I just want to ink just around here. And to do that, I'm just going to get a bit of scrap card there. That's the bit that I tore off, just so I can protect my pad here. Now, I usually tend to start off with the lighter colour first and then build up with the darker colour. So we've got Pool Party, Island Indigo and Night of Navy. Could have written this before, couldn't I? And I've just kept one end of the brush for the darker one. So just dip it in. I usually tend to just take off the excess and then I just rub it. So I'm only going over this bottom part because I'm going to bring my mask in after that. If you can see here, we've got some colouring here, and if I put my mask on to start with, then I'm not going to be able to ink there, am I? So just gently rub it on and you'll see the colour build up gradually, and it really is better to build it up gradually. Don't try to put too much on in one go or you'll end up seeing lots of brush marks. So I'm going to take my next colour. Again, you see if you put it on straight away you get not very nice effect, so just put it on gently. Still probably got a little bit too much, but that's fine. Build it up, keep a little bit of the lighter colour at the top, so don't go over all of it. Just build it up from the bottom. And then I'm just going to put tiny bit of the Night of Navy on because that's obviously quite a dark intense colour, and just use your own eyes. Do it until you think you've got enough on, you've got the effect you want. Okay, so I'm happy with the bottom bit, so now I'm going to place this card on. I want to make sure I've left a little bit of white so that it looks like you've got the snow at the top. So I'll put that there, and again we go back to the lighter colour and dab a bit off and just rub it around. And you can do this, say, with your sponge. Just bring your sponge in from the edge and use a circular motion. Just try to keep that as still as you can. I'm sorry, I'm sure this is probably making a camera shake. I hadn't thought about that. I need to maybe be a bit more gentle. Right, I'm going in with the Island Indigo. Just building that up again. I am sorry if this is shaking. I can't actually see from where I'm sitting. I know the table's shaking, so I imagine the camera possibly is, but hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. And then build up with the light. Oops, again, no, it's fine. Sometimes it looks a bit harsh when you first put it on. Okay, so you see now we've got the first mountain effect. Now what you don't want to do is just build that, just take it straight up, otherwise it's not going to look very natural. You want to make it look as though you've got sort of mountains behind mountains. So what you do is you move it either along that way or along that way, and sometimes it's good if you can turn the angle a bit. So I know that's there, so I want to move that, so I think I may go around there. Make sure that you've got some of the lighter bit at the top, so again you look like you've got the snowy scene. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Pick up your pool party again. It's quite therapeutic. I quite enjoy doing this technique. And you can change the colours if you start to put in oranges or reds or pinks. You can look like you've got a sunset. You can use greens and browns at the bottom to look like you've got grass. There, so that's the island indigo again. Oh, I am sorry about the shaking. So just keep going until you think you've got it right. You can take this off, have a quick look, but just make sure you put it back in the exact same spot, otherwise you're going to get some strange blurred edges. So, am I happy with that? I am. Now I can leave it like that. I can put another layer on if I want. I've only used the 2 layers and then I've built the sky up after that. So I'm happy just using those. So I'll put this away for now. Now I do want to build this up a little bit more, so I think I'll just put a bit more pool party in there. Ooh, shaking camera again. You can leave bits white. As Bob Ross used to say, if you ever watch Bob Ross the painter, he used to say, it's your world, you're living in it, you make it how you want it. Right, yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, the thing is with this, I think, get it to where you want it and put your brush away, because the danger is you'll end up spending, like me, I can spend so long on it, and by the end I look and think, oh, I wish I'd stopped ages ago. So that's how you make the background. Now I'm going to look at how we put this on. And I did that using the Ornamental Pine set, using this stamp from it. And if you can see, I'm not sure what the light's like, but I did mention at the beginning we've got a plain bit here and then a shiny embossed area there. So we did this in 2 stages. Now obviously it's important that you get one stamp on top of the other, because especially when you're using a wooden block, it's hard to judge when you put it there. You've done your first stamp, you put your second one on, it's hard to know you're exactly in the same place. But don't worry, Stampin' Up has got a solution, as they always have, and it comes in the form of a Stamp-O-Majig. I love this piece of equipment. So what you do with your Stamp-O-Majig, this will help you position your stamp exactly in the same place the second time. Now, you take some vellum, which Wonderful Stampin' Up also sells vellum cardstock, and I have done this, so I'll just show you what I did. So I took a piece of vellum, imagine that plain, cut it, or you can stamp it and then cut it, lay it there. Now I've just got that arrow, so I know that's the top left-hand corner of the stamp. So all you do is ink your stamp up with, I tend to use just black ink, ink it up, make sure that is in the corner against your Stamp-O-Majig. Then on top of the vellum, put your stamp so that's exactly in the corner and just press it down like that. You can take your Stamp-O-Majig away, take that away, and you'll be left with that impression. Okay, so that's exactly, you know where that stamp is going to be. So then, here's where the magic starts. Put that there. Decide where you want your stamp to be. So you can get your vellum, You can move it around, you can think, oh, I want it that position or that position or that position. Decide exactly what position you want it in. Now I know, if you remember, that's my top left-hand corner. I know that fits my Stamp-A-Majig perfectly. When I've got this where I want it, take that away. Just be really careful not to move that, because that's the exact position you want it in. Now I should have done this before. I was so excited to tell you about the Stamp-A-Majig. Smoky slate ink I've chosen to use for this. So I'm just going to ink my stamp up, being careful not to touch that. And as with my other videos, you'll see my wood stamps are well loved. Oh, I meant to say, with the Stamp-A-Majig, if you're using the vellum, I do find it far easier having the wood mounted stamps, because next time you come to use it, if you've made a piece of vellum, keep it in your stamp set, and you know that's going to be in the exact same position every time. If you use the foam mounted stamp sets and you put them onto an acrylic block, chances are you're probably going to take them off to free your block up for next time. So when you come to put it back on, it may not be in the exact same place. So you'd need to recreate your vellum. But if you use the wood mount blocks, you can keep that forever. So I know that's my top. I'm not going to move it. I'm going to fit that into the corner, slide it down, press it on, and then I'm going to have my stamp exactly where I want it. Perfect. Okay, now I need to clean that stamp because, gosh, look at the state of my fingers, I get ink everywhere. Because I'm going to put some Versamark ink on and emboss onto that. So I've got my stamping scrub, which means I can clean my stamp as I'm going. I've shown this to you before. It comes in 2 sections. That section has a raindrop on, which means that's the wet section. Use your stamping mist. Just pop a couple of sprays on there. Clean stamp. It's got a beautiful perfume. Clean it. On there where it says the sun, that's the drying section, and then perfectly clean stamp to use for the next stage. Okay, now here I didn't do this, this was a bit of an experiment and I'm not overly happy with it, so I know how I'm going to fix it. I use my Versamark pad because I want to be able to stick embossing powder onto it, but the embossing pad has square edges, and all I did before was just sort of scatter it around, and I've ended up with sort of slightly squared edges, which I wasn't overly happy with. I could fix that by hand. So what I'm going to do, I don't want the whole of it covered, otherwise I might as well have just done it with that to start with. I wanted a section matte and a section glittery. So this time I'm going to use the diagonal and just be a bit more careful. So I'm just going to randomly stamp it around, making sure I don't get every single piece, bit of the chunk. And you could do this with glitter. It doesn't have to be embossing powder. So here's the magic again. Get our piece of vellum, lay that over the stamp until it's in the same place. Remember this, Stamp-A-Majig, pop it into the top corner that you've marked. Take your vellum away. Now you know when you come to press that on, it's going to fit exactly. Put it on, press it down. And how clever's that? And that's called 2-stage stamping, if you haven't heard of that before. Okay, what I then need to do is put some silver embossing powder on. Oh my goodness, I tell you what I've forgotten to do, and I never forget. It was just I was so excited about this technique. I should have used my embossing buddy just to quickly run over it before I even started stamping. The reason is that will get rid of any static or greasy marks that this embossing powder will want to stick to. So I hope that my powder behaves and goes where I want it this time. So stamping up silver embossing powder, just pop it all over. So yes, embossing buddies are definitely worth using. Right. Just knock off any excess, and it's a good idea to put it away immediately. if I can knock something over and make a mess, I will manage it. Right, now another useful bit of kit is just a little dry paintbrush, especially if you forget to use your embossing buddy, because I've got little bits of powder where I don't really want them. But to be honest, on this it wouldn't actually matter because it's just going to look a bit like a bit of silver glitter. So you can run over it and just take off little bits, but I'm going to leave them. I don't actually mind. Then we need to use the heat gun, so you won't be able to hear me for a minute. So just, you'll see it start to change. So you can see where I've dropped it. So you can see where that's changed now, it's all sparkly, and then I've got a section in the middle that's matte. You don't have to do that, as I say, you can do the whole lot with silver embossing powder. I just wanted it to look like it was a little bit frosty. So the next thing I'm going to do is I've got 2 pine cones to put on and the sentiment. And actually, if I've been sensible, I should have done that before. I tend to do things like that quite early on because if I make a mess, I can start again. Okay, chocolate chip ink. I just think this brown works beautifully with this, and as ever, I do need a bigger side table. When I stamp, I tend to stamp onto a foam pad and have a bit of scrap paper or card just to protect my foam pad, just because I'm too lazy and don't want to keep washing it. Okay, so this is out of the ornamental pine set, the Christmas wishes, and I normally stand up when I'm stamping, so I'm always a little bit worried I'm going to get things squiffy when I'm sitting down. So I've got my stamp on, and then I'm going to put 2 little pine cones on. And again, you can go over and emboss those with a little bit of white embossing powder. So I'm just going to try and put that at an angle there, a little jaunty angle. And oh, I think I may have got that in the wrong place. Oh no, it's okay. Then all we've got to do is assemble the card. So, oh my goodness, I've got even more ink on me. Let's get rid of all of this. This is a really nice card. If you've got artistic tendencies and you want to feel that you've created your own masterpiece, this will lend itself well. So I've got some Night of Navy cardstock. That's 6x6. This is, oh, I've swapped between centimetres and inches. I really should stop doing that. This is 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres, which I think, if I measure it against here, is 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And I'm just going to use some glue on here. You can use snail on here. You can use double-sided tape, or whatever you normally use to adhere your cards. Right, now I should actually, I think, brought some double-sided tape for this, because I did find last time it went a bit lumpy and bumpy when I put my glue on, but I shall have a go because I haven't got any to hand and I don't want to make you wait for me while I go and fetch it. Try not to put too much on, because glue, if you put too much on, can show through. There we go. But I do like glue. I know I should use other things, but I find it just gives me a bit of manoeuvrability after I've put it on. Right, so now the door's gone. I think a friend has just come home for a coffee, so that's handy. I've just finished it now. So that is how you make that card. I'd love to see any cards that you make. Let me know how you get on with it. Thank you very much for watching. From Debbie at cariadcards.co.